JB here, JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025, about 32 minutes to the close and to the most anticipated event of our lifetime. Just being sarcastic somewhat. I mean, obviously, after the bell is going to, it's going to be market moving news. So who knows what that all looks like. Take a look at the market right now. I just, I've been saying this for the last couple days at least. I mean, the VIX, right? So the VIX is either broken or it's saying that the market's uh not really fearful. I I mean, if you read all the headlines and what everybody's talking about, I mean, holy smokes, yesterday was what the 7% unemployment rate it's going to cause. This morning it was the reports out of Bloomberg, was it Bloomberg, that China was stopping investments in the U.S. or restricting folks from investments, which is ironically enough, that's what the U.S. was doing back in 2024. But everything gets spun to fit the narrative of everything is there's so much uncertainty, market's going to crash, recession, bear market, and maybe, right? I can't rule any of that out. I don't think anybody could say with 100% certain without a doubt that there's not risk, right? But to me, if there was a lot of risk, a heck of a lot more risk, there'd be a lot more, the VIX would be a heck of a lot higher. So, I was just running the numbers on the VIX. I posted this earlier. So the VIX has been over 2140 or so every month since July. So at some point in every single month, it's been over 2140, and 40 of those days since the start of July have been higher than where the VIX is right now. The VIX is actually up at 2170, but still, uh, maybe it's 36 days, right? And 252 trading days since the start of July, and 15.8% of the time the VIX has been above that level. And here we are on the cusp of this announcement, right? So I don't know. I'm not trying to dismiss it or downplay it or any of that stuff. Obviously, it could be surprises, but uh, if I was convicted on either way, I'd be a little more aggressive on some lotto calls or puts. But for me, I don't want to see puts get evaporated, so I'm not getting any puts. I don't have a lot of call positions on the ones I do. I'm pretty much riding freebies outside of Baidu and the game, some of the other GameStop calls. So TripAdvisor, which I'm not going to talk about that one right now. So anyway, so just individual names. Let's see what I have here. Well, actually, the overall market. So take a look at that bear flag, and we're still within that lower trend line there. So, we get some kind of squeeze up to 580 or so in the coming days. That'll negate that bear flag setup, and boom, we can talk. I can talk about other things. Another session of reversals, right? So the market opened red, we tumbled down, hit lows around nine. Was it 940 this time? Might have been 940. Hang on a second. I have to get my trusty. Yeah, we actually might have been pretty much right at the open, all the way down to 544, and then it was off to the races. Hit highs by midday, so pretty much a little after 1 o'clock, 567 on the SPY. I mean, pretty impressive. Although you take a look, that's only highs from 4 days ago. But all things considered, I mean, the market could have went the other way. We could have broke under the 547 handle. Next thing you know, things are rolling. So you saw a lot of bounces in some of the names I'm looking at, but either way, 563 key spot. So of course we're at 563.51 here into the close with 28 minutes left. If we get a close above that, I'll be a heck of a lot more optimistic. But everything's open after the close. Who knows what's going to happen? It'll be a bigger than earnings call. It's almost like a Fed meeting, except probably more important. So that's the overall markets, the VIX, the amount of stocks trading over their 200-day moving average on the S&P. They're creeping up another 6% higher. I don't know how many more stocks that is. 6% of 500. I well, actually trying to do, what is it? Six? Is it no 6%? 2.6. So it was another 5 companies. Either way, that's trending in the right direction. So I always try and look at things somewhat as a glass half full scenario. I think that bodes well, and then we'll find out here into the close. So that's kind of the overall markets. And then individual names. So Shopify looked like death. I wouldn't say death, but was down over nearly 3% at the open. I'm like, oh, here we go. It's gonna go back to that 200-day moving average down at $90, and then it found a bit. It was down at 95, bounced up to 97, and then from 11:15 to 1 o'clock, it went all the way up to 100, over 100 and 101.45. It was like, who knows what's going to happen tonight? I don't have my entire position left on Shopify, so I'm like, let me lock some more in. So I took some more calls off for nearly 500%. I'll just hold the last few because I say this a lot too. The small can become big very quickly in environments like this, and big can become small. So uh, you know, I'd rather know that I added a position small, it turned big, covered costs and profits, and I still have a few left. So if there is some reversal tomorrow or some shenanigans, I'm not, I can, those will expire, but at least I lock those in. So that's kind of thought process there. But I think you start looking, the 50-day moving average on Shop is nearly 110. I mean, I wouldn't rule that out into Friday. Call me crazy. The 103 strikes, $7.26. I'd be pretty nice. So I'll just hold on the last few for those. That's Shopify, and then Caterpillar, which was doing nothing pretty much in the morning. It actually got a price target downgrade from Baird, however you pronounce it, 340 down to 300. They already have an underperform rating on the name. It looks like it hasn't done much to it today. It was holding up in the morning, not doing much, and then it started to take off after the noon hour, 331, all the way up to 336. Got some of my calls out for 100% to cover costs. I'll hold the rest. Similar to Shop, if the market finds footing tomorrow, tariffs aren't as crazy as it's being laid out, or even if it's just a relief bounce, I could see Cat trading up past 350. Start looking at its moving averages, 352. So I mean, call me crazy at 109 on Shop, 352 on Caterpillar. I can't rule that out. I mean, you start doing the math on, I mean, that's over 5% move, but do 3% tomorrow and 3% on Friday, and boom, there you go. So that's kind of thought process there. So I'll continue to hold those. And again, I'm with the risk. There's risk if the market tumbles, or even if we're flat tomorrow. Uh, I mean, it's the risk. The premium is just going to get crushed. So that's the risk there. But riding those free, so that helps rationalize holding those positions. Then in the morning, you looked at Spotify, and it was like content names were running, and all of a sudden Netflix was getting a bid. It was like 9:30, 9:31. It almost looked like there was like news or some catalyst. So I've been watching all week. Finally added some strikes to thousands, which were 90 cents or a dollar on Monday. They went down to 60 on Monday, back up to $1.20 on Monday. Then Tuesday they got decimated. They were 60 cents at the open. Then once it started to spike, I was looking at the 1,005s, the thousands. Finally got the thousands. Netflix continued to run all the way up to 9:49, and that was like really quick. The calls, I actually put a limit in for a double. It was like 182. I had it up on the offer, and it reversed course from 9:49 all the way down to 9:36, and then the premiums just got destroyed, even though it was higher than when I added the calls. Um, and then it was just floundering around. Didn't want to be in a spot where I lost profits on that, or well, not only lost profits, but took a loss on it. So I closed out for a small little loss there. I was actually looking for some more strikes earlier. I mean, the 1,000 strikes are off 50% now. So even though the stock's only down $9 from where it was earlier when I locked it out, or $8, so could be interesting. Maybe tomorrow. So definitely a name I'll revisit. Another name, 50-day moving average I was talking about earlier in the week, 970 is probably a good target. So I don't know, getting the $1,000 strikes makes sense here into the end of the day, but maybe tomorrow. Uh, and then Baidu, which has shown some flashes, was over 92 for a while, then back down to 91. Um, and I was saying it this morning, this news around China restricting investments in the U.S. I don't think that's a net negative, right? I think if anything, I think it might be positive, Baidu. But it's if you look at the candles, it's had 3 straight sessions. If you can include today, right at its 50-day moving average. 91.84 is a 50-day moving average. It's at 91.87 right now, and it just can't seem to get out of its way, either on the upside or the downside. Just needs a kick. Maybe China markets rally overnight, or some kind of catalyst via upgrade or something tomorrow. Obviously, I need some help on my calls, but if it breaks 95 or so tomorrow, I'll look for more strikes to play for upside into next week. And then some other names. So if the tariffs come out not as horrible as they seem, and you kind of see names that have been hit on tariffs, and Ralph Lauren was a name I was looking for puts on for quite some time at the end of February and into March, as kind of like a tariff play, right? Because these names just coming off all-time highs, price for perfection, supplies, manufacturing, a lot of it's abroad. Tariffs has to hit them even if it's just a little bit. Of course, what it did, it sold off from 290 all the way down under, pretty much hit 210 in a couple weeks. No news, no catalyst really, and now it's starting to bounce. And you take a look, 3 straight days to the upside for Ralph Lauren, like strong days too. So is that kind of dismissing the tariffs a little bit? Maybe that's all baked in. So definitely a name to watch. I kind of passed out ending strikes. I don't want to have too much risk on, but definitely be watching again tomorrow. And then Nike, and I was talking to someone in the chat room earlier on the side. Early last week we were talking about, especially into earnings. Here's another name, huge. Manufacturing is not all domestic, so there's certainly some issues, right? So yeah, their earnings came out. It actually was decent earnings. Then it reversed after hours, came back down. Interesting name here. So not saying I'm adding calls today, but could be on watch tomorrow. And then you have to start talking about the gap fills. And gaps don't always fill, but on a name like Nike, they usually do, right? It's a company. It's not going bankrupt, right? It's a name that has to have a turnaround story, and if it's still in the cusp of that. So not saying a gap fill happens in the next week or so, but could be an interesting name to play for upside. So don't be surprised on that if we find footing. And then last but not least on the call side is GameStop, and I'm still waiting at a position, just floundering around here in the 22s. Hopefully consolidation. I hope that's not the sign of things to come for GameStop, but I think at some point it's going to really start to take off. And then on the flip side, I keep talking about getting some hedges, so we'll see how things play out overnight and into tomorrow. But the SQQQQ is probably the first one I'll get. And if you look at the weekly strikes, it's down here all the way down to 35. At start of week, it went all the way up to 42. Um, if things get crazy, the weeklies have come down substantially in price. Even today, the weekly calls are down 40%, although QQQ is only down 1.8%. So, 40 calls to 41 strikes all look interesting on a risk reward basis. So don't be surprised if I look to nibble some of those tomorrow, if as a hedge or even as a position to take advantage of more downside. And that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be around after the close, listening to this most hyped event in recent memory, and hopefully it's a letdown in regards to being hyped. Right? It just becomes this little thing. Oh, okay, yeah, all right. We already heard this. We already know this. We know this. All right, they're working, and then markets maybe can find some footing. I think that's like for me that's like the base case scenario. The bull case would be if there's not as many countries, not scale back some tariffs, not broad based, targeted. That would be bull case, and then the bear case would be no negotiation, straight highest uh, percent on pretty much broad based tariffs across all the countries, or a majority of them. That probably wouldn't bode well, and I don't know even how the market will react, but I wouldn't be surprised if we trade under 550. As crazy as that sounds, but I mean we were just at 550 yesterday. So, all right, folks, let's have a great day. I'll be back rock and roll.